Welcome to my Lofty Vision workshop. It is step one of an 8-step process to unlock a 7-figure partnership deal. I'm going to quickly go through the steps, but today's structure is pretty simple. I'm going to tell you why Lofty Visions work. I'm going to tell you how it works for me. I'm going to show you how it works for others by helping you create one. And then I'm going to give you some pro tips on where you can get stuck and how to unlock them in order to launch it. A lofty vision is something that you can do in a few hours with someone else, and it could drastically help you acquire or gain interest from a large distributor, so you don't have to raise money, or you can avoid raising it again as an early stage startup. This session is designed for people that could be trying to break through the 5 million, the 10 million, all the way down to those that are pre-revenue and trying to get their first 100,000 in the bank. I've been able to help companies pre-revenue launch a distribution partnership, all the way through to those that are trying to break through into a new country as a scale up. Now, before we go into the Lofty Vision workshop, I want to call out the 8 steps that can help you unlock a 7-figure partnership so you can know where we're heading. Lofty vision and crafting one is number 1. Naming the market transformation is number 2. Changing your sales process to become a collaborative advisor is number 3. Becoming a market voice by launching a social object and gaining hype is number 4. Finding your counterparts by picking the right companies is number 5. Swarming them to get the right meeting is number 6. Building and co-creating joint offers with a counterpart is number 7. And finally, we avoid reselling, all that other bullshit types of partnerships that don't ever do anything but suck up your time by building a 3 to 5 year deal. And how to get it inked and across the line is number 8. We're going to be taking you through all of these, but today we're going to be talking about step 1 of the Counterpart OS program, which is crafting a lofty vision. So let's get into it. Step 1 is crafting a lofty vision. Why do we spend time on a lofty vision? Most founders that I meet spend hardly any time on a lofty vision. They get confused between vision, mission statement, and sometimes values and impact. You can't do that. As a small company, one of the most valuable things to you is, where are you going? Are you going to make it? Can be assessed based off where you're going, how bold it is, and how you deliver that message. That's what we're going to get into today. The great thing about a lofty vision is it only takes a few hours to create. You really just have to get over the mindsets that stop it. But fundamentally, if it is a truly lofty vision, it becomes an unfair advantage. And the great things about unfair advantages is large companies need them to change their market position. So with that in mind, the lofty vision creates the strongest distribution partners you can find, and even the biggest. They have a positioning problem, not a revenue problem. So if your lofty vision can give them a path, and they can see a path by partnering you to a new market position because it's so lofty, there is a higher chance they're going to partner with you. Now, the great thing about being a founder of an early stage company is that you can get away with way more than a big company, and your boldness actually helps you. There are not too many people watching. So those moments where you get cut through by being extremely bold increases the probability of your success, your partner's success, and the market believing people can change. Might sound really crazy, but large systems don't really come across as bold, unconventional, or lofty. And if you nail all those 3, there is a great chance you can become a huge advocate and voice to the market for a large distributor. Frankly, I think it is the highest value for the lowest amount of effort when creating unfair advantages. So if you haven't done it and you're avoiding it, it's probably a mindset challenge and you need to overcome it. But let's jump into how we can get there. Now, before I teach you how to do it, I want to show you how I learned how to do it. So when we kicked off our business, we started with a vision of getting veterans jobs. It's a pretty simple vision. Solve veteran unemployment. Let's get veterans into jobs. By doing that, we ended up with this partner on the left here, IBM, also wanting to get veterans into jobs. It took us 25 hours to get a partnership with IBM. It was with the APAC CEO, so Asia Pacific CEO, pretty high profile guy, 180 hours to get a first client and 440K in annual revenue for software. Seems like a pretty lucrative partnership. As a young startup, we were just doing under $1 million in revenue, and then we just added 440K to our plate. At the same time, we also transformed into solving underemployment as a vision. And only a few months later, we also acquired this partnership on the right. It took 3 hours in partnership meetings to get. We only did client-facing meetings. It took 4 hours to get our first client and 1 hour for an additional client. So in our second one, we made $14.2 million in annual revenue. Roughly around the same time, not too far apart, not much change in our product. And so the only difference here is positioning. They needed a positioning change, number two, and we also had a different lofty vision and were much clearer at poking it out. One of the main reasons that we had a loftier vision with number two is we only had 90 days left to cash. So we threw all of our inhibitions, mindsets, all that shit out the door in order to survive by becoming the boldest thing that we could, which at the time our vision was solving underemployment. I'm going to get into that now. So we moved our vision from let's get veteran jobs to this vision. And I call it my $150 million vision because that's how much in contracts it won in a 2-year period, which is fantastic stuff. Now, when you look at a vision statement, and we'll get into this later, it's broken into 3 parts: a vision statement, an industry context, and a market outcome. But when I deliver a vision, I always say all 3 because people have generally different ways they think about a problem. Someone in the room will think 25 years ahead, another group of people in the room will think 1 to 25, and some people in the room can only think a day ahead. Regardless of intellect, people gain perspective over their lives in different reasons, so they have different time horizons and time spans. So, this is how we used to deliver our 3-hit vision, which I call the $150 million vision. We used to say an impossible goal of solving underemployment. We are here to solve underemployment, and we are going to be doing that by focusing on potential over experience, that you could learn more than you could ever know. That's a very solid anti-theory. And last but not least, we think people are assets and not human resources. Those 3 things, where the labor market is considered capital and resources, so commodities, not assets. The deep thinking of potential will always overweigh experience, which is a huge market change because people love experience, and that's how they de-risk their hiring, and it's probably how they built their career. And last but not least, completely focusing on a different goal, which was solve underemployment because it was at 38% and unemployment was about 5%. This vision was truly lofty, because at the time we were just helping veterans get technology jobs. But this was a whole market vision, and that's why a partner on the right here, Ernst & Young, said, wow, we could really look at talent management, we could really look at reskilling, we could really look at super teaming or team-based workforce augmentation. And that's how we ended up with 3 joint offers that had to do with our lofty vision, unfair advantage, versus just getting veterans jobs. So does it work for other people? Yeah. Swift here at Major League Hacking started with a vision of being the largest hackathon organization in the world. And we've helped him move from helping companies go from being stagnant factories to guilds. So the idea that work and those that are in computer science actually want to form a guild, that is his vision. We want to move the world from factories to guilds. Now, that lofty vision allowed us to change our enterprise pricing to a model and a transformational membership that helps you become a guild, and it also helped them repackage their whole business. Within 100 days of working with us, Swift launched a 7-figure counterpart deal with CPOS and Google. So we went and acquired Google as a counterpart. We've turned them into a 7-figure deal, including an upfront purchase of over $1 million. And it's on track to hit 8 figures in 2026. So well done to Swift. And it all started with him wanting to be the largest organization that does hackathons, to truly looking at what the market needed, how it wanted to change, and saying, hey, people want to move from working in a factory as it comes to computer science and the colleges where they come from to working in a guild. So well done to Swift. Now, Swift at the time when he joined the program, he was just over 1.5 million in revenue, and the business had recently lost over 6 to 7 million in annualized revenue. In order, it was fundamentally in turnaround to keep it alive. So this can work for all different types of companies at all different types of stages, as long as it's truly lofty, authentic, and there is a need for people to use that loftiness to speed up their own market position and they see themselves going there. So, what stopped other founders but didn't stop Swift? There are 3 things after doing this over 47 times we've seen that stop founders completely in their tracks. The first one is I'm not worthy mindset up here. Fundamentally, I'm not worthy of being a visionary is a huge problem that stops founders developing a lofty vision. A lot of the time, this comes from advisors, investors saying all of these really terrible things when you raise capital, or just the capital raising process in general. You do those hits enough times, people tell you you're the problem, that you're not good enough, that you're going to need to bring on a team. It starts to get to you. And so you start to adopt an I'm not worthy mindset. And if you don't think you're worthy of being a visionary, you won't build a truly lofty vision that you will doubt, because a truly lofty vision will have self-doubt, and that's what makes it lofty. It's not easy to achieve, it's not easy to change, but it is the goal. The second thing that stops founders is when they build their lofty vision, they do it alone. You should never build a lofty vision alone. You could do it with literally anyone, but you can't build it alone because it doesn't push you far enough, and it won't ever be seen as a door. It'll become too company focused. It won't become market focused. Last but not least, you'll also find when people push product market fit and all these other terms in industry that all of these extractor and analysis types that sit in consulting, they always tell you to wait for more proof. You do not need proof for a lofty vision. It is a vision. It is an impossible goal. There's been no proof of anyone even getting there. If you believe it is what the market needs and it's where you want to go, it is your lofty vision. It doesn't need data. It doesn't need customers to start. You need literally nothing. If I could tell anyone that's starting a business, this is the first place that you should start before you do anything else. Anything else. So if you get stuck not thinking you're a visionary, doing it alone and waiting for proof, you can't take advantage of being a small company with a bold vision, helping a large company change its positioning. You sort of just become in the supply chain or helping someone else along the way. And we don't want to do that at Counterparts. We want to get you that 7 or 8 figure partnership deal and avoid all these capital extracted value, extracted type people that are telling you you're not worthy and are telling you to wait for proof, because fuck them. So when we create a lofty vision, I have a number of rules that have always helped me get there. First rule is 3 hits. You have to say the vision, the industry context, and the market outcome. You just can't say the first one because it misses your opportunity to show how you understand positioning and how you can understand where the market's going, and allows you to speak from the market versus speaking from your company, which is going to provide a lot more humbleness to the conversation, and you're not going to come across egotistical at all. If you just say the first one, you might look a little crazy. So make sure it's always the 3 hits before you hand it over to whoever you're talking to. Like I said, never alone. Never create a lofty vision alone. Never create a lofty vision alone. Never create a lofty vision alone, because it allows you to say we over I, and we also acts as an entry point for anyone else wanting to join the conversation that's in industry. Number 3, if you've done your lofty vision and it doesn't create self-doubt when you literally say it out loud, it's not lofty enough. So it should create self-doubt when you say it. Number 4, it's a door for the idea, not a finish line for your product. Like I said, it has to be the voice of the market. People listening to it have to feel like they can join it. So don't fuck that shit up and allow it to be a door. Don't put in this solution. We want to be a solution that does this. None of that helps anyone. That's all very much locked around who you are and what your company does, not where the market's going and how you want it to change. Remember to have your different time horizons. 1 day, 1 year, to 25 years, and then those are really the people that think way ahead 25. People think different perspectives, different problems. If you want to avoid opinions on a vision, nail every time horizon perspective, and people will just be able to contribute and enjoy because that's how their minds think. When you say your vision, have a character in mind. If you don't have a character in mind, you might fumble the text, the context, the wording, and it's just sort of boring. It sounds like ChatGPT did it. So when you build it, think about a character that was the most courageous to you. And when you go back and review your lofty vision, make sure it sounds like something that character would say. And last but not least, we have 3 types of lofty visions. There is the impossible goal or the almost impossible goal, the anti-theory, which is calling out what's underneath the surface, bubbling, and last but not least, the 25-year perspective. You can use all 3 of them. You can use one of them. I like to use all 3 in every vision statement that I build across the 3 hits. So they're our lofty vision creation rules. We've built them over time after fucking up again and again and again, including a number of times in our company, all the companies that we've built since, and they're super helpful for keeping in mind. So where should we go now? Well, where we're going to go now is to our friends at MathTrack. And we're going to show you through working through MathTrack and the example how we help them craft a lofty vision so that you can take this video and this workshop, do it at home with someone, like I said, never alone, and build out the lofty vision for your company so you can start to attract the interest of large distribution partners who have a positioning problem. So Kevin and Andrew, we came across through a referral from a venture capital network that we work with, who's trying to beat venture capital for only doing something called seed strapping. It's pretty cool. And these guys didn't want to raise any more capital. They had a fundamental frustration with changing how mathematics was taught, and their company was called MathTrack. And on the left, we have the unconventional founder, Andrew. He's a builder, and we have the professor, or I like to call the glue, Kevin. Now, these 2 guys, when we met, were pre-revenue fundamentally under maybe just under 100,000, but pre-revenue on a product that was scalable. They were getting frustrated with trying to raise capital. Probably sounds familiar. They were getting frustrated with dealing with higher education. They struggled to do anything commercial. And they were getting frustrated with what was the right product to build and for what industry. All of that matters because it made them doubt what they were doing, and they'd done all the things that everyone else has done, which is remortgage your house or refinance your house, trying to build a business that fundamentally changed how mathematics was taught to teachers, so teachers can change how mathematics was taught to kids. Because if you only can be good at mathematics if it gives you tears, there is no success in maths unless you're crying in order to get the result. Fundamentally, these guys had almost given up, in a sense of not their vision, but probably who they were. They weren't the right people to do it. So we worked with them to change their position and to launch a partnership deal. Now, the first thing we did to help unlock Kevin and Andrew was to sort of teach them something really simple: patience over urgency. Now, that's one of our mindsets at Counterparts that you get from going from I to we, and it overcomes a simple thing that urgency always rewards me. Now, urgency rewards you sometimes in startups, and it becomes a natural habit. But when forming a market vision or trying to find a partner, it fundamentally knocks you out. So we had to slow the team down, and one of the ways we help apply that mindset is one of the ways we help build a lofty vision, which when step of building a lofty vision, which is step 1, is naming your courageous character. So if you're following along, what I want you to do now is name a character that you think is the most courageous. It can be fictional, it can be present, it can be dead. It doesn't really matter. Pick someone that you think is the most courageous to you. And then what we want you to do is to write down what they are. Now, this was a great activity for Kevin and Andrew because it slowed us down and allowed us to go into patience mode as we tried to figure out who was the most creative person that we'd come across. Now, for Andrew, he went with Gandalf the Grey because Gandalf has his doubts, has incredible wisdom, has put his tribe through motion. He puts the tribe in motion. He rarely talks about himself and he has good humor. And the interesting thing about Gandalf is he has a bit of doubts. And as you can see, Andrew had been on this journey with an industry expert and he was unsure about where it was going to happen. So you can see that coming through. So this character was very, very close and personal to Andrew. For Kevin had been in the industry for a long time and wanted it to change. He picked Winston Churchill, one leader to go against the grain, happy to take everyone on to change status quo. He rallied around words. There is a line in an arc of justice. He recognized knowing of what was at stake, and human can be a force of nature. The idea that one man can change the trajectory of the history of the world is something that resonated with Kevin. As you can see, these are two founders frustrated with a market that's trying to box them in, that doesn't want to change, and you can see it reflecting in the courageous characters that they're pushing through. And that's how we create an authentic vision. It allows people to see a frame of who they would like to be, and by showing someone that they've already looked up to, and you can already see its connections to our current situation. So with Gandalf and Winston, we're on track. The second step we have to do in building a lofty vision is exposing what we call an anti-theory. So an anti-theory is almost like the conversation that's bubbling under the surface. We have the status quo, which is what everyone accepts. The anti-theory is slightly just underneath. It's what everyone wants, but no one's pushing. And sometimes it bubbles to the surface in side conversations, or maybe everyone knows it and feels it but doesn't do anything about it. And by exposing the anti-theory, that's how we anchor our lofty vision, because we have to call the anti-theory out to be truly lofty. Now, I know there's other definitions for the anti-theory. This is how we like to describe it, and it's our framework because it is an anti-theory. The status quo is the theory. The anti-theory is everyone wants to happen, but no one can push it through. And the best time an entrepreneur can win and do something truly lofty is when that anti-theory is just above the surface and they're the ones that push it out into the market and own that narrative. So it's really important we slot this in to our lofty vision. For my company, it was potential over experience. No one wanted to say it, everyone knew it. No one wanted to admit that someone had given them a chance based on their potential, and no one wanted to admit that they could always learn more than they could know, because the experience is so integrated into our hiring process and our systems. But everyone knows it's true if you really pull them apart. So, for math and the math track team, the status quo is math is computational. That's the status quo. The anti-theory, though, was that if you get good at math and understand probability, it evolves creativity. So everyone's saying that math is computational. It's this sort of black and white process that's boxed out, and it does all these things that people don't understand and they avoid. And what the math track team are calling out is that it actually creates and evolves creativity, which is pretty cool. So as you can see, now we're going to step 3, which is we've plotted the anti-theory and we're now going to go back to the start, which is we're going to slot in our vision statement. Now, I like to go to the impossible goal here. So I start with the anti-theory, I then come back to the impossible goal. Like I said, you can use these types anywhere, but if you're really stuck, just follow this framework because I will use it every time and I rarely change it. So we've locked in the anti-theory. Math as a creative force is more valuable than a computational force. So we're saying creative force is greater than computational force, where the market is saying computational force only. That is a huge flip, and it's going to get a lot of attention. So what we want to go to now to make that sort of controversial statement or contrarian statement feel really safe is we're going to go to math will evolve our senses. And so that's our impossible goal, because if we set an impossible goal, then the anti-theory will still have its punch, but it will act as an open door versus telling everyone else they're wrong. Because if we can get them to reframe out and look ahead, all of a sudden, no one's right or wrong. We're just discussing the possibility, and we're also discussing what we're not discussing, which is the anti-theory. So in this case, the team and I landed on math will evolve our senses. That's a pretty big Winston Churchill-like comment here. Math will evolve our senses. Math as a creative force is more valuable than as a computational force. We're starting to feel pretty lofty. So what do we do next to bring this all together? Now I can tell you, Andrew and Kevin, we wrapped around math will evolve our senses quite a few times because it's quite a lofty statement and it used to be a little bit longer. So we shortened it up and kept it simple. If you feel like you need to add words to something like this, and we had probably 4 or 5 words, it's just you dealing with your doubt. Try to simplify it down to the simplest setting, and I always do the grandma test. Will my grandma understand this? Math will evolve our senses. Yeah, she probably would understand that. If I add all these other things like math will evolve our senses and change the way we think about it, it's too much. We've got to keep that first vision statement short, hitting, simple, and something that our grandma will understand. And I guarantee if you start to look at this, you can start to see Gandalf and Winston saying these first two things. And so we have to get to the market outcome. And this is a pretty bold 25-year perspective. So we've got the impossible goal, got the anti-theory. I'm now sitting with Kevin and Andrew, and we're looking at the market outcome. How do we want the market to look in 25 years for everyone that interacts with math? And so where we landed was math isn't solving problems, it's making sense of where you are in the world. That's a pretty bold shift. It's moving math as just a toolkit to a sensory component. I could see Winston saying this. I could see Gandalf saying this. I can see Winston saying this more than Gandalf, but I can still see Gandalf saying it. And last but not least, I can definitely see Gandalf saying this, and I can definitely see Winston saying this. And so as we go through this every time, we're going to do the character test. Could you see your character saying this? Would they use these words? And would your grandma understand it? So as we've just done again, would a grandma understand each of these things? She might struggle with number 2, but if you start with number 1 and you end with number 3, she's probably going to get it. So math will evolve our senses. Math as a creative force is more valuable as a computational force, and math isn't solving problems, making sense of where you are in the world. Now, before this, MathTrack's vision was MathTrack wants to help teachers learn math storytelling. It's a great execution. It's a great product. It's probably what they need, but it is nowhere near as lofty as this for all of those large companies in the world that are looking at how mathematics is going to change with artificial intelligence in mind. This all of a sudden, though, is pretty lofty because we could see a courageous character saying it. We could see them using these words. And you could also see your grandma understanding it, so it's got wide market appeal. Now, the last step, or step 6 in our lofty vision, is that so you don't stop doubt creeping in and you avoid doubt. You want to get it everywhere. So every pitch, every LinkedIn profile, every page of your deck, memo, literally anywhere that's the first page that you would consider your company, have it there. Don't hold back. And when you start to talk to people, ask people if they're on board. You know, one of the worst things that I see with lofty visions is founders never ask anyone if they're on board. So our last step is to get it everywhere. A lot of founders stop at step 6 because they're not dealing with their doubt. You have to overcome that I'm not a visionary mindset and get it everywhere. I wish I learned this because I had 90 days of cash, and that's when I got it everywhere. I should have done it from day zero, and maybe I would have never run out of cash. It's been my experience since getting a lofty vision out there that you attract more of the right customers who want to work with you for longer and co-invest in where you're heading, or large distribution partners that need that type of bold transformation to change their market, their company, how their investors think, which could all lead to them changing their positioning by distributing your product. So what happened to the MathTrack team? As you can see here, you've now got a distribution partnership. MathTrack, a national leader in math education, has launched a partnership with Indiana and Wesleyan University. Universities are tricky partners to work with, and they were able to achieve a $250K first year upfront revenue guarantee and a revenue share of 50-50 of their personal development product, which comes with a MathTrack team that teaches how to be better at teaching maths. So it's a huge win for a company that didn't have a repeatable revenue stream, that didn't have a strategic partner, that couldn't break into higher ed even with one of the experts in the country in higher ed, and has now provided them a framework to do repeatedly. It also provided them a huge amount of mental relief. A partner seeing your lofty vision allows you to really chip away at that I'm not worthy mindset, and you become a better CEO, a better founder, a better salesperson, and a better product creator. All in all, you start to shift to creating value because someone has seen that you can, so therefore that creates self-belief in you. So what are some bonus tips? And before we do that, I just want to take you back to where you can get stuck. Now that you've seen the MathTrack journey out, you can probably see a lot of places where I'm not worthy, mindset can creep in. You could also probably see a lot of places where you're told for proof. As you look at MathTrack's lofty goal, you can see really math is evolving the senses. That's a pretty bold fucking vision statement for a startup company in Indiana. But it's true. That's where they want to go. That's who they are. And as you look at, because they didn't do it alone, it truly became lofty. So although you can see all the places you can fall apart in that process, you overcome it by not doing it alone and making sure you follow our rules. 3 hits, never alone. It could create self-doubt. The MathTrack one definitely does when you say it. It's a door for other people to jump in versus about your solution. Different time horizons. We kept that Gandalf and Winston in mind, and we applied our 3 types beautifully with that team. And it didn't really take us that long. We built this with the MathTrack team in less than 72 minutes. So not even a full 90-minute workshop. So if we go down though, what are some bonuses? Well, Ben here is one of our other founders. Now, when Ben started with us, he's pre-revenue. He was looking at ways of how to overcome his own doubt in entering a new market. He started as a furniture salesperson and then became an L&D manager and territory manager for furniture stores, Ashley Furniture, and has now taken all of that knowledge and built an AI avatar that helps salespeople learn sales by observing them. It's a pretty fucking unique tool. Now, when we met Ben, his vision was very consulting based, very sort of investment banking, a sort of value extractive focus. It didn't really talk about where his vision was going. And he changed his vision into learning is discovered, not delivered. Super bold first hit of a lofty vision. There's a lot of goodness after it. But one of the things that Ben also did really, really well was after he gave the vision statement, he created a number of questions that he uses every session to get reflective moments. So you can see here, here is an example where a founder's laid out our reflective moment and asked a really, really, really great question. and why. So all of a sudden, we're going deeper into someone's experience and then connecting them back to the vision statement. Ben, as you can see, in a very short amount of time, transformed all of his communications by unlocking his lofty vision and asking discussions questions after he delivered our 3 hits. So the first bonus value to make your lofty vision even better is after you ask the lofty vision, ask what they think about it. Whether it's the anti-theory, whether it's a personal experience, whether it's just their reaction to what you just said. Getting into a smart discussion and pausing the conversation is a great thing to do in a partner call or even just your first sales call. Why? Someone that doesn't believe in your lofty vision as a startup is probably going to give you shitty value extracted deal terms, whether it's a direct sale or a partnership. That's where you hear like, "Yeah, come back to me when you've got those things." Or why don't we start with a free pilot? Or you should partner with us because we have got all this value, and we talk to a lot of people. Like all of that fucking bullshit happens when they don't believe in your lofty vision or they're energy vampires. So this discussion question and looking for that reflective moment is a great way of spotting them. If they don't have a reflective moment and they don't engage in that discussion, they're probably a fucking energy vampire. And there was sometimes my old business where I just used to stop the call. You don't have to be that bold, but it's a good way of disqualifying prospects if you don't think they're a good fit. And Ben has applied this brilliantly in his business, which has given him a lot of confidence. He likes to start with an admiration question and then move into a deeper one, and it works really, really well. The second pro tip, and I just really want to reinforce it, is that it should create self-doubt. When we started working with Sybil, she was a Cambridge-trained economist that grew up not well, but then changed her life. And she had a very successful first company, and this was her second company. It's just under 130 in revenue, stuck in pilot mode, keeps getting pilots. It's a workforce solution that understands lived experience. When we met Sybil, her vision had been effectively constrained to a vetting tool for recruitment. That's just a product feature of hers. That's not who she is, where she wants to go, or the change that she wanted. So we had to do a bunch of work, including this session, to unlock her vision, and now it's so much bolder. Sybil's vision is that lived experience is the only valuable thing in the labour market, which is pretty insane in an AI world to say that. Lived experience is where you gain courage amongst everything else. And so we were able to work with Sybil to unlock that lived experience and change how her whole company worked by leaning into that self-doubt, finding out why it existed, going lofty, and then creating it again, but on a playing field that worked with her, who she was, and didn't forget anything about her and where she wanted to go, like all of the last advice that she just got. So Sybil, with this new approach, has moved so quickly in 2 years. In 4 weeks, she's done more than 2 years by going at that self-doubt and not ignoring it. So that's just a reminder that it should create self-doubt and it shouldn't create anxiety. When we met Sybil, she was anxious. She knew she wasn't building the right thing. Now we know we're heading in the right direction, although it's a little bit terrifying, and we are building the right things, as the reflection in her comment. So that is step 1 of our 7-step process for locking in step 1 of our 8-step process for locking in a counterpart. It worked for me. I went from veteran jobs to solving underemployment and doing a 3-hit vision that unlocked over $150 million worth of contracts in a really short amount of time, slightly over 2 years. It can work for you. It works for early stage founders. It works for those that are stuck. It works for those that are in turnaround. It works if it's lofty, it's authentic, your grandma can understand it, it's within the voice of a courageous character, it acts as a door for other people to contribute, and if you spend time on it. You need to spend time on this because if you do not have a position of where the market should go and it's not bold, then you won't be able to name a market transformation. And if you can't name the market transformations occurring, companies will think that you will not understand why positioning is valuable to them, and they will not do a distribution deal with you. So hopefully in the last 40 or so minutes, we've given you what you needed to craft your first lofty vision. And if you want to do more with the Counterpart program, you can sign up really, really quickly and join our next convert. And I wish you the best luck in creating a 7-figure deal and avoiding any more capital raise. And just for those that do want to join, we have a 30-day money-back guarantee and a 6-figure service guarantee, which means if we haven't achieved 6 figures in 16 weeks, then we keep working with you for free until we do. Thank you for your time. Good luck, and get out there to create some value.